sister texted, "We don't want you at the wedding. It's a classy event." Mom added a laughing emoji. I replied, "Got it, I'll cancel the classy payments too." They mocked me in the chat. By sunrise, their reservations were gone, their account declined, and my sister came knocking on my door. When my sister announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her. We weren't best friends or anything, more like family business partners. That's how it always felt. She called when she needed something, usually money, and I said yes more often than I should have. But she was getting married and I thought maybe this would finally change things between us. I told her I'd help however I could. She smiled, said she already knew I would. The first big ask came less than a week later. A text, not even a phone call. "Hey, can you send $7,000 for the venue deposit? We'll pay you back after the wedding gifts, promise." No context, no breakdown, just the number. $7,000. I didn't even hesitate. I wired it that same afternoon and told myself it was a gift, not a loan. Deep down, I knew I'd never see that money again. But this was my little sister and weddings were supposed to be special. Maybe it would bring us closer. It didn't. The silence after I sent the money was the first crack. Not a thank you, not a photo of the venue, not even a screenshot of the confirmation. A single heart emoji 3 days later. That was all. I didn't press it. I just waited. I figured I'd be looped in soon, asked for opinions on the dress, the seating chart, the music. But I wasn't. It was like she took the money and erased me from the planning altogether. Then came the announcement. It wasn't to me. It wasn't even in our family group chat. It was public, Instagram Live. I got a notification she was going live and I opened it out of curiosity. She stood there in a white rehearsal dress, smiling like she just won a lottery. Behind her, her fiancé was pouring champagne. He thanked everyone who supported them. She said the wedding was fully paid for now, and that it was all possible because of their hard work and the help of real family who believed in them. Real family. The comments were flooding in. Friends, coworkers, strangers with flower emojis calling her their role model. I just stared at the screen. That night, I posted a single comment under the highlight reel she uploaded. A chess pawn emoji. 3 minutes later it was deleted. 6 minutes after that, I heard banging on my door. She came over in full wedding glam, still in heels, makeup perfect. She didn't even say hello. She barged in and demanded to know what my little emoji stunt was about. I said nothing. I didn't owe her an explanation for something she understood perfectly well. She started screaming, accused me of trying to humiliate her publicly. She kept asking if I was jealous. I was quiet for most of it. But then she said something that flipped a switch in me. She said I always make everything about me and she was tired of tiptoeing around my emotional baggage. We shoved each other. It wasn't some drawn-out movie fight, it was a clumsy blur. She pushed me, I pushed her back, her shoe came off, she grabbed my sleeve and I told her to get the hell out. She left swearing she'd never speak to me again. But I wasn't even mad. Not anymore. Just done. Later that night I got a call from our mom. Then another from Dad. I knew what my sister told them before I picked up. They were worried, confused, trying to figure out what happened between us. I told them everything. The $7,000, the post, the fight. They didn't yell. They sounded tired. Like they'd been pulled into a mess they didn't understand. My mom said maybe we both needed to cool down and talk face to face soon as a family. I said okay, but I didn't mean it. Because in that moment I realized something. This wasn't about the money. It was about my place in her life. And I had none. Unless I was playing a part that benefited her. I wasn't her sister. I was just a chess piece on her board. A pawn she moved when she needed help. And she was about to learn what happens when the pawn stops playing. 2 days after the fight I stopped playing nice. I didn't scream. I didn't post anything. I didn't beg for recognition. I just started pulling strings. Quietly. Precisely. The venue was first. That $7,000 wasn't a gift. It was my booking on my credit card because she couldn't qualify on her own. So I called and canceled it. The woman on the phone was apologetic about the non-refundable policy, but that wasn't why I was calling. I didn't want the money back. I wanted it gone. Then I moved on to the photographer. I'd been the one to sign the contract. Mine. So I canceled that too. The DJ? Cancelled. Florist. Released the date. Rental company? Done. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't warn her. She didn't even realize that half of her wedding existed because I was holding it up from behind the curtain. Let her find out the way I found out I didn't matter. Publicly. 3 days passed. I kept my phone on silent. I ignored her texts, the calls from our aunts, even my dad. I was waiting for her to figure it out. I thought it'd be the venue that tipped her off. But it was her fiancé. He called sounding awkward, like he wasn't sure what he was even walking into. He said the DJ had called to confirm cancellation and asked if I had any idea what was going on. I told him simply I canceled it. Long pause. He asked why. I told him he should probably talk to my sister about that. 10 minutes later, she was at my door again. No makeup, no heels this time, just rage. She didn't try to come inside. She stood in the hallway screaming loud, accusing me of destroying her future, of humiliating her, of sabotaging the one good thing she had. I stood in the doorway and let her get it out. When she paused, I told her the truth. I told her I canceled the wedding because it was built on a lie, on manipulation, on me, and I was done financing her self-delusion. She went quiet for a second, then called me bitter. Said I was lonely, jealous, pathetic. That I was punishing her because she had something I didn't. I almost laughed. I told her I'd rather be single forever than live a life that depended on guilt-tripping family for cash. Then she stepped forward and shoved me. It happened fast. She pushed, I stepped back, she slipped on the threshold. She didn't fall, just stumbled, but it snapped something in both of us. I told her to get out and never come back. She didn't argue. Just left. That night the calls started. My dad. My mom. Then both together. They came over the next morning, sat in my kitchen and begged me to let it go. Said we're family and families don't abandon each other over money. I didn't say much. I let them talk. Then I reminded them of the last 5 years. How I covered her rent more than once. How I paid off her credit card when she was in between jobs. How I drove her to appointments, covered deposits, filled her fridge when she didn't ask for help, because I didn't wait for her to ask. He expected it. And then this wedding. I was supposed to throw money at it while she took credit for doing it all herself. They didn't know what to say. My mom started crying. My dad just sat there rubbing his face. Eventually they asked me if I could just let the wedding happen for their sake. Just this one last thing and then everyone could move on. I said no. Because the truth was, this wasn't the last thing. It was just the latest thing. Without me, the wedding couldn't happen. And now they all finally understood that. 3 more days passed. He tried to salvage it. Tried to rebook things. Tried to use her fiancé's card, then her own. Nothing went through. And then the rent came due. She texted me that she was about to be short just until after the wedding, just one more time. I didn't even open the message. The wedding was 5 days away. Guests were already flying in. And she had no venue, no cake, no photographer, no dress. That one was financed too and she missed a payment. And now apparently no rent money. She had built an entire celebration on a structure of borrowed things, most of them from me. And now it was all collapsing. She called. I didn't pick up. She texted, "You've made your point. Happy now?" I left her on read. Because I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in freedom. And she was just starting to understand what life looked like without someone cleaning up her mess. By the middle of that week, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls, voicemails, texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. The entire family was talking and it didn't take long to figure out why. My sister's perfect wedding, the one she had been bragging about online for months, was falling apart. Apparently, she was telling people there had been a series of emergencies. To one cousin, she said the venue had a flooding issue. To another, that the photographer had canceled last minute. Someone else said she claimed the caterer went bankrupt. Each story was slightly different, like she couldn't even keep her lies straight anymore. But every version had one thing in common: she never took responsibility. And she never mentioned me. I didn't bother correcting anyone. I just let it play out. I'd been silent long enough to know that silence can be powerful when the truth is inevitable. It always leaks out one crack at a time. 2 days before the wedding, she called 6 times in a row. I didn't pick up once. Her fiancé even tried calling, leaving a message that sounded more like pleading than anything else. "We just need to talk," he said. I deleted it. When Saturday came, the day that was supposed to be her wedding, I woke up early. It was cloudy out, the kind of dull gray morning that feels heavier than it should. I made coffee, turned off my phone notifications and stayed home. I didn't check social media. I didn't care to see what she was pretending that day. By noon, people started figuring it out. My cousin Jenna texted me saying she and her husband had arrived at the venue and found the gates locked. No sign, no staff, just silence. Guests were standing around confused, trying to call my sister, who apparently wasn't answering anyone. That's when the calls to me started. One voicemail said, "Rachel, are you okay? Your sister said you had a breakdown." Another asked if it was true that I had sabotaged the wedding because I couldn't handle her being happy. Someone else said she claimed I was in a psychiatric ward. It was almost funny how far she was willing to go to make herself look like the victim. Almost. That evening my dad showed up at my door alone. My mom didn't come, which was unusual. He didn't look angry, just old. He stood in my living room for a while before saying anything. Then he asked me something I didn't expect. "Do you think we failed her?" That hit harder than anything else he could have said. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him and he looked at me, and for the first time in my life I could tell he wasn't defending her. He was starting to understand. Eventually I told him what I believed. That loving someone doesn't mean covering for them. That letting her take and take without consequences wasn't kindness. It was permission. And she had been living off permission her entire life. He nodded slowly. Said he just wanted peace again. I told him peace doesn't come from pretending nothing happened. The next morning, everything got worse. My mom called, crying this time. She said my sister and her fiancé were behind on rent. 2 months behind. Apparently she had used most of her wedding fund on deposits she never bothered to recover after I canceled everything. Now they were broke. My mom asked if I could just help them this one time, to stop them from being evicted. I didn't respond. I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. I knew if I replied even just once, it would all start again. The excuses. The guilt. The cycle. That afternoon my sister texted me a photo. She was sitting on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by unopened bills and boxes of wedding decor. No words, just the picture. I didn't even feel bad anymore. Because that wasn't remorse. That was desperation. She still didn't understand that the problem wasn't the canceled wedding. It was her entire way of living. Every part of her life was built on someone else's effort. Someone else's money. Someone else's forgiveness. I thought maybe she'd finally learn. But then 2 days later my dad called again. He didn't waste time. His voice was low, calm, too calm. He said, "Rachel, you need to come to the hospital. It's Mom." For a moment, everything inside me went quiet. The anger. The satisfaction. Even the sense of control I'd built. It all disappeared. That was the moment I realized that the war I'd started wasn't just between me and my sister anymore. It was tearing through the whole family. And I wasn't sure how to stop it. I got to the hospital in 20 minutes. I don't remember parking or walking in. I just remember my dad standing near the vending machines looking like he hadn't slept. When he saw me, he walked over and hugged me without a word. My mom had collapsed in their kitchen that morning. Stress-induced heart arrhythmia, the doctor said. Not a full-blown heart attack, but a serious warning. They'd admitted her for monitoring overnight. She was stable but shaken. I walked into the room and saw her hooked up to a monitor, eyes closed, lips dry. She opened them when I stepped closer and tried to smile. I hadn't seen her that pale in years. "I just want peace," she whispered. I sat there for a while, holding her hand, not talking. Just thinking about how far things had spiraled. How something that started with a $7,000 favor ended with my mother in a hospital bed. Then my sister walked in. She looked like hell. Greasy hair, dark circles under her eyes. A baggy sweatshirt that probably belonged to her fiancé. She didn't even look at me. Just went straight to Mom, kissed her forehead and sat in the chair across the room. No one said anything for a while. Then out of nowhere she started crying. Not loud. Just quiet sobbing, like someone trying not to break apart in public. I didn't trust it at first. I thought it was another performance. But then she said something that caught me completely off guard. I called off the engagement. The room went still. I looked up. My dad stared at her. My mom blinked hard, like she wasn't sure if she heard right. She wiped her face with her sleeve and said, "He said he couldn't deal with me. Said I don't live in reality. That I treat people like they're disposable. And he's right." No one spoke. He kept going. Said she hadn't slept in days. That she was in debt. That she sold some of her stuff just to buy groceries last week. That she spent the last 2 nights sleeping at a friend's place because she was too embarrassed to go home. Then she looked at me. And it wasn't with hate. It wasn't even anger. It was something different. Like she had finally seen the wreckage she'd left behind her. "I messed everything up. I know. I used you. I used everyone. And I don't even know why I thought I deserved any of it." I didn't say anything. I just watched her fall apart. My sister, who spent her whole life pretending she had it all together, was finally sitting in the wreckage of her choices and for once not blaming anyone else. That night after we left the hospital, my dad asked if we could all meet at the house the next day. He wanted us to sit down, just the 4 of us, and figure out where we go from here. I didn't give an answer right away. But the next morning I showed up. My sister was already there when I arrived, sitting at the kitchen table with no makeup, no phone, just a cup of tea and a legal pad. My mom was discharged that morning and was upstairs resting. We sat down and to my surprise, my sister slid the notepad across the table. On it were 2 columns, what I owe, and how I'll fix it. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. But it was a start. She had written down every dollar she still owed me. Every vendor she'd ghosted. Every bill she'd ignored. And then in shaky handwriting at the bottom she'd written, I want to be someone you can actually be proud of someday. But I know I don't deserve your help again unless I prove I'm willing to fix this myself. I stared at the page for a long time. And then I said, I'll help you within limits. I'll support you learning to fix your life, not funding it. She nodded. It wasn't some movie moment. We didn't cry or hug. But for the first time in years, it felt like we were 2 actual sisters, not just 2 people locked in a long silent war. The next few weeks things slowly changed. She and I moved back into our parents' house while my mom recovered. Like old times, except everything was different. We did dishes together. Grocery shopped. Talked at night, really talked. And no one asked me for money. She even got a part-time job at a local bakery. Said it wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. And then one morning she told me she was thinking about planning a new wedding. Something small, simple with just family. Paid for entirely by her and her fiancé. If he ever came back. But that wasn't the surprise. The surprise was this. She didn't seem desperate for him to come back. She said if he did, great. But if not, she'd still move forward. Still grow up. For the first time ever, she wasn't building her life on someone else's foundation. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. It was early fall by then. The air was cooler, quieter. Life at our parents' house had settled into something almost peaceful. My mom was getting stronger every day and my sister was, surprisingly, keeping her word. She took the morning shift at the bakery 6 days a week, started paying off small debts one by one, and sold off the ridiculous luxury items she used to post about just to seem successful. No more designer bags, no more last-minute treat-yourself vacations, no more rented image. Just reality. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and saw her with a spreadsheet open, a pencil in her mouth and an actual calculator next to her. She was budgeting. Like seriously budgeting. It was both hilarious and surreal. She looked up and said, "Guess how much interest I was paying on that credit card you helped me clear last year?" I said nothing. He grinned. "Let's just say I could have flown to Paris twice. Coach, but still." It was the first time I laughed with her in what felt like years. My mom came downstairs not long after, moving slowly but smiling more these days. She seemed lighter too, like having us under one roof again, even in these weird circumstances, was healing her in ways medication couldn't. She started baking again, reading her old cookbooks, playing old music while she cooked. Our dad started coming home earlier from work, just to sit with her while she made soup. But of course not everything was smooth. One evening I found my sister crying in the laundry room. I didn't ask why at first. Then she handed me her phone. Her ex-fiancé had posted pictures with someone new. A soft launch but obvious. A girl he worked with, smiling at a bar with him, her hand on his knee. She didn't say anything, just sat there. I didn't comfort her. I just sat with her until she was done crying. Later that night she surprised me again. She said, "I loved him because he didn't know who I really was. I think that's why I chased that wedding so hard. I was scared if I stopped moving, someone would figure out I had nothing figured out." I nodded. Not because I related, but because I finally understood her. For once, she wasn't trying to win. She was just trying to be honest. A few days later, our mom had a follow-up appointment. All clear, the doctor said. Her heart was recovering well, no signs of permanent damage. When we left the hospital, she asked if we could stop for ice cream like we used to when we were kids. We sat in the car eating cones, windows down, an old Fleetwood Mac song playing on the radio. That's when she said it. Out of nowhere. "I think we're all going to be okay. Finally." I didn't respond right away. I just looked at my sister in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, not on her phone, not performing. Just there. The next morning, she woke up early and made breakfast for everyone. Not just toast or eggs. Like real breakfast, pancakes, berries, scrambled eggs, everything. She said it was her thank you to all of us for not giving up on her when she probably deserved it. Then she handed me something. An envelope. Inside was a check. Only for $300, but it was labeled in the memo line. First repayment. I didn't cash it. I stuck it in my drawer. I think I just wanted to see what she'd do next. She's still working at the bakery. Still budgeting. Still living in our parents' guest room until she saves enough to move out on her own. Not rushing anything. Not pretending. And then just a week ago she told me something else. She's still planning a wedding. But not with a man. With herself. She wants to throw a small party, a symbolic wedding, just to celebrate being in a healthier place in life. No guests, no dress, just her, a couple of candles, and a vow to never lose herself again. I didn't laugh. I didn't roll my eyes. I offered to help her plan it, if she'd let me. She smiled and said, "Only if you let me pay for it." And for the first time I actually believed she could. The day of the wedding was nothing like the one she had planned months ago. There was no crowd, no stage, no rented violinists or champagne walls. Just a rented backyard space at a friend's house. A small wooden table with 2 candles, and a $49 white sundress she bought at a thrift shop. She didn't even tell most of the family. Just me, our parents, and her 2 oldest friends from high school. No one else. No drama. No need to impress anyone. And for the first time since this entire mess started, it felt like she wasn't performing. She stood barefoot on the grass, holding a folded piece of paper, and read a vow out loud. Not to a man. Not to a future that didn't exist. Just to herself. To show up, to stop pretending, to stop using people as shields from her own chaos. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't even particularly well written. But it was honest. After she finished, everyone clapped lightly, not because they were supposed to, but because it felt natural. Then we ate. Potluck. She'd asked everyone to bring a dish instead of a gift. My mom made her famous lemon bars and my dad grilled in silence, smiling more than I'd seen him do in years. Her 2 friends brought homemade spring rolls and a weird salad that none of us liked but pretended to. When it was just us cleaning up, she came over to me holding another envelope. I shook my head before she even opened her mouth. "I'm serious," she said. "It's more than last time. I want to pay off everything I owe you." I took the envelope, tucked it into my purse, and didn't say anything. I hadn't cashed the first one. I might not cash this one either. I wasn't keeping score anymore. But I could tell it mattered to her now, and that made it different. Later that night, back at the house, we all sat in the living room like old times. Mom wrapped in her blanket, Dad with his feet up, the smell of lemon bars still in the air. My sister curled up next to me on the couch, quiet. Out of nowhere, she whispered, "I used to think you were just cold." I looked over. "But now I get it. You weren't cold. You were just the only one willing to deal with reality." I didn't say anything. I just nodded once. Before bed, my mom stopped me in the hallway. She looked tired but calm. She said, "I'm proud of both of you." It wasn't dramatic. Just simple. The kind of sentence you believe because it doesn't try too hard. And she was right. We weren't fixed, not completely. But we were better. Healthier. The war was over. The silence had lifted. Now months later, my sister's still working. Still budgeting. Still building a life that's hers, not built on someone else's back. The wedding she once planned was gone. But in its place was something better. Something real. And for the first time in a very long time, I don't feel like a pawn. I feel like a sister.